Get ready to take love to new heights. I'm Anna Rumor with Pop Culture.
And I'm Nick Valdez from comicbook.com.
And this is Docked, where we offer our unfiltered opinion about the real Love Boat because we've got some party crashers this week. We're going in on the 8th episode of The Real Love Boat. And this week, the singles are in charge because we've got 4 new people who are really stirring things up. Nick, I am so curious right off the bat. What did you think of this week? What did you think of the twist?
I honestly don't know what's happening anymore. When Rebecca mentioned that we were only the halfway point through, I was surprised. I was like, what could this mean? How is the game changing? And clearly the game is only getting started. Like, it really does feel like a turning point this time, as we have a whole bunch of new singles. They're in control, like you said, and there was no captain's table challenge, there was no sail away ceremony, which we'll get into, and I am lost at sea right now.
Just when we thought we knew how this show worked, they're like, actually, it's going to be totally different now. And I'm like, okay, I'm along for the ride, but I'm also, I don't really 100% know what's going to happen next. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting and new, right?
Exciting and new. They told us, and we weren't listening, so that's on us.
Yes, absolutely. It is our fault that we didn't catch that.
And speaking of exciting and new, Marty and Emily, who this entire season we've been like, I barely know these people, they're just unproblematic off to the side. Ooh, do they have some problems? I am, obviously not wishing problems on anyone, but this is juicy to watch. I'm kind of thrilled.
I didn't expect it either. We've talked about them as, of course they made it another week. Of course they're going to pick one another. They've been so strong right from the jump that I think I said it from the beginning too, was like, oh, they're just going to sneak their way into the finale. That's how you do it. You just don't make any waves. But apparently stuff's been happening that we haven't seen. Emily's starting to mention things about Marty that haven't been really shown, and we're starting to see these sides of Marty that we haven't seen because they haven't had really screen time in that way. So I'm intrigued. I think that I can't wait to see where that goes, right?
Same. They've been, I guess, being like maybe low-key toxic in the corner instead of being all loved up in the corner. And we've got Thor coming in to really smash his hammer onto the smithereens of their love, possibly.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. Let's get into it, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't really a challenge this week. It was an activity, as they pointed out.
Yeah.
And they were told that they were going to be falling in love, or there was some little key like that Sydney actually latched onto very smartly. Because there's always a clue in like the little wordplay, and it turns out that they're bungee jumping. And immediately my heart sank, because on top of everything else they've done in this show that I would never do myself, that I would completely opt out of it. Absolutely. Oh. I would be a coward, sent home. I would be shoved off immediately.
I thought the same thing. They were showing Daniel and Shaylin being like really nervous and having it be kind of a plot point. I'm like, I would be not even on that platform. I would not be strapped into that harness. I would not be in that country. No way would you get me to bungee jump. Absolutely not.
Nope, I would cause such a scene. I would lose whatever romantic partner I'd have at that point. I would be crying. I'd be an absolute mess. Do not. But thankfully, that's not what happened. The couples were all very brave. And, it led with Sydney and Dustin, who were just 2 adventurous friends.
Adventurous friends is the emphasis.
Yeah, they had absolutely no trouble with it. Then you had Jordan and Kendra. Jordan, who had like an emotional breakthrough as a result of it. You could definitely see it in like Jordan's eyes. When he was hugging Kendra, and his eyes were just like completely open, like just spears completely visible. He was a changed man.
He was. Marty and Emily did great too. Everyone did a good job, and they were building up to kind of this, ooh, will Daniel and 𝐏𝐶 do it? Will they not? But then they both did it, and they did great. So, you know, I was like, good.
Yes, I'm glad everyone is braver than I am. So kudos to 𝐏𝐶. She was the most nervous about the whole thing.
Like we said, it's not really a challenge, it's activity. So after they all complete it, we find out that they're going to have a god and goddess party, because, you know, they're in Athens, so kind of playing off of that. And the guys and the girls split up, and they go off to pick outfits for one another, which I have to point out. Okay, so the guys shop for the girls, they get them kind of these Grecian dresses, all very similar, very pretty. And then the girls buy the kind of tunic toga thing for the guys, and the guys are shocked at what they receive. And I would just like to pose the question, what did you think you were going to get?
You know, you hear togas and you think togas, right?
Yeah.
But I guess they weren't happy with their togas. Marty did have a reason to complain though, because his was
small.
His was super short and like just. And that, you know what, in retrospect, right, like maybe that was one of our signs that we should have been paying attention to, that Emily, like maybe this has all been one-sided, right? Like, because Marty clearly put a lot of effort into Emily's like look, and it was so funny hearing the women try on their clothes, and and they did mention Marty during that, like that he would be willingly accepting that anything that Emily picked out just because she picked it. See, this is where the problems start.
It is. This is a classic what happens when one person is like way more on board than the other person. And not saying that Emily's not on board, but Marty's on board. Marty's ready to like get married on this ship, and it just seems like Emily's not quite there yet, which seems like a kind of normal thing to be.
We don't know how long they've been on this ship. It's been a long time, I presume, and they've spent a lot of time together. But also, like you are, like Daniel pointed it out too, that Marty is falling really hard and really fast, and we see what happens.
Let's get into this party. Everyone kind of walks in, and this was very eyes wide shut, I felt like, whenever the waiters are all wearing these masks and these like veils as they hand out the drinks. And then we get this like weird shot where we're inside the helmet looking out at them, and so you know something ominous is about to happen. And it does whenever Rebecca and Jerry reveal that they are not just their waiters for the evening, they are hot new singles who will be introducing themselves into the group, and everyone is shook.
4 new singles right away, 2 men and 2 women, which is completely different than anything we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're 4 very distinct individuals too. We have Dylan, who is a secret accountant.
I wrote hot accountant, yeah.
Like, the accountant's just the icing to what kind of guy he seems like, you know?
Yes. He seems nice. We don't know much about him except for he's an accountant, and he seems very nice.
He grew up on like a small town farm, you know, and just he's only had like one serious relationship, he said, and you know, and he's secretly an accountant that he just kind of springs on his dates.
And you know that once he said he's like from the Midwest, Cindy was like, whoop, me too, hi, hello. The moment he takes off his helmet, she's like into him, because she and Dustin didn't click anyway, so she's looking for someone. And you know, if it's someone who's also from the Midwest, they can talk about the Midwest all day long, baby.
Yes, so we have Mike, who basically is Thor. Like he says it himself too, but it's completely earned, right? Like,
yeah. I wrote it down before he said it, and then he said it, and I was like, oh, well, of course you know too.
Took his helmet off, waved his hand through his luscious locks, and I was like, oh, I can see why you're here. You should have been here from the beginning. How dare you?
Truly. Well, and Emily immediately is like, va va voom, like right off the bat, which we haven't really seen that response from Emily ever, including with Marty.
Mm-hmm. And we'll definitely get into that.
Yes.
And then we have, for the women, we have Susanna. We didn't really get to learn a lot about her, except the fact that she did have someone who cheated on her in the past. And
yeah, it was her fiance
Yes. The one thing that is important here, apparently, is that she's very attractive and immediately gets all the men's attention.
Everyone was looking at, I mean, like, I think everyone in the group, regardless of preference, was like, wow, she's stunning. She said in her package, which I loved, she says, I don't approach men, men approach me. And I just wrote, slay.
I mean, when you know you've got it, right? And yep. She's basically like a female Thor. We're in that same trajectory here. Finally, of the four, we have Brie, who is like an NFL cheerleader, immediately brings a fun energy, and she just wants to be treated like a goddess. And I love you, Brie.
Yeah, she's so fun. Immediately, she took up her veil, and I was like, you would be the person I would want to hang out with of pretty much everyone who's on board right now, because she just seemed like she was fun, and obviously there to find love, but also just like there to have a good time, and who doesn't love a cheerleader?
Yeah, and she does say she's there to be serious, but the big thing about Brie is that she's immediately attracted to Daniel. And they find that they have so many like actual connections. And the big twist this time around is that these new singles are the ones who are in control from now on. First of all, we don't know what that means yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what does that mean? Because it's for the next several ports. So like for the next several weeks?
𝐒𝐈𝐿 immediately attaches to this. Like, she's like, what does it mean that they have all the control? And I'm right there with her. We don't get a lot of time to really think about that, because then we get a big mixer where everyone meets each other, and here we go. Right? Like, this is where the mess happens.
We keep saying there's more mess, and there's more mess every episode. Like you mentioned, 𝐒𝐈𝐿 is like, I'm just gonna stick with you, Daniel, and he's like, totally, we're just sticking together. Until he starts to talk to Brie, and then he's like, wow, we have so much in common, which, dun dun dun, we'll see how that goes. And then Susanna and Dustin and Jordan, they're all vibing, so, but I didn't see anything like insane there. But the biggest thing that we see is, of course, Thor, Mike, talking to Emily. He pulls her straight away, and Marty is not having it.
We haven't seen this side of Marty. We got a tease of that last week where he's like, if she chose somebody else, I would never choose her again. And now we're kind of getting to see that. They're finally communicating on that kind of level, I suppose. It just took this long to do so. Like,
yeah. I mean, for better or for worse, I guess.
Yeah, like, she's starting to tell Marty that he's being clingy, that he wants to spend time with her on this boat. But he's also like, it's a little confusing, because he makes it seem like he wants to spend all his time with her, but she's also saying, give me some space. But at the same time, Marty's saying, well, it's not like I want to spend time with you 24/7. I just want to be with you. So I don't know how to process this.
I thought the same thing. I was like, so you don't want to be with her 24/7. You say you're not clingy, but she can't have a conversation with, I mean, I guess it's because it's a new guy, but she wants to have a life on this boat that is not just constantly, I mean, imagine being on this boat, all these cool people, and you have to talk to the same person the entire time. I would also be kind of over it. I'll talk to Thor. I don't know if he had anything really interesting to say, but like, I would be in for a conversation about his Justin Bieber love, just for variety.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say, right? If she didn't talk to Thor, we would never know that he had Bieber fever. So,
and we do need to know that,
So thank you, Emily, for putting in the work there with Thor. I'm glad to know this other side of him, too, that he's not just a god.
He's got an appreciation for fine art as well.
This continues spiraling. They just do not see eye to eye after this, because Marty then tries to re-interrupt them and pull her back and have like a real conversation about like what is happening there, and it might be a surprise to Marty, because it's a surprise to me, because we've never seen this side of Emily. We've never seen her express her wants this much outside.
Yeah, it's true. It was kind of uncomfortable to watch in a way, because it felt like a real fight and not like a dramatic crazy fight, but like a real fight between like a real couple having a real issue. It was, I felt like I shouldn't be watching it, but of course I was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That made me like lean in just a little bit more, right?
Yeah. It's so bad. Ooh, it puts the ear up to the screen.
The Real Love Boat also understands this, and they never quite cut away to introducing a new sail away ceremony or really showing us what's next in this competition. They kind of stay in this Marty and Emily thing. So I guess we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, that seems like next week, because we immediately go to next week on The Real Love Boat, and I was like, wait, we're done? I need more. And we're gonna get more next week. It looks like she's going on a date with Thor, or like an activity or something. Looks like Daniel is going on a date with Bree. I think it was Bree. You can only see her small and from far away, but I think some cracks are starting to form in our big couples.
Now, going back to what Rebecca was saying about this as being the halfway point, this is now the game's really kicked in. Is there a chance we're gonna see a couple like Daniel and Shaylin, who've been dominating this whole time, actually make it to the end when, the power is completely taken away from them? So,
right.
And it's going to force some mix-up in these couples, like Sydney and Dustin, who have like a super mature kind of like parting compared to everyone else, right? Where they both just kind of talk, and they're like, "Look, we're not really feeling it. Let's, good luck in the rest of your endeavors," right?
Yeah. They had like a formal handshake to leave things as they were, which I'm glad, because there was nothing between those two. I'm not nervous for Marty and Emily, because I feel like they I don't know if they need to split all the way, but they definitely need to break off a little bit and figure out what they want before they find out what's right for them at the end of this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and also that's the kind of thing too, right? Like you did mention how this felt like a real fight, and if it feels like a real fight, there could be like a real actual connection and recovery to that, right? Like there could be a way this could make them stronger as a couple as a result. Once they actually say what each other wants out of this pairing, instead of just being with each other just to get through the game for these couple of weeks. If not, there's Thor. So
it's a win-win for Emily, honestly. I'm happy for her.
Yeah, Emily's really got the whole world in her hands right now.
You can watch the mess unfold as we do. So join us every week for Docked. We recap The Real Love Boat. And until then, ciao for now.